Hello, I'm here to talk about another book. This is the first time I started and finished a book. In the same weekend. I started it yesterday and I finished it today. I listened to it as an audiobook and I'm like, wow, it actually happened. I finished it within the weekend because I have been struggling to read. I've been having a reading slump for at least, I want to say, why did I start it again? At least 2 to 3 months. But this is the book I read, Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. I think that's how you say it. That's how she said it in the book, so I hope I haven't said it out wrong. But Crying in H-Mart, I've seen this book pop up in people's stories for the longest time. On Instagram, I follow quite a few, not quite a few, actually I follow a couple of booktubers, bookstagrammers. I follow a lot more bookish YouTubers than on Instagram, but I saw that there and I've seen a couple of people talk about it on YouTube, so I was like, it intrigued me, but I didn't know that it was a memoir. Let me close my window. I got into it and I initially thought this would be like fiction. I didn't think it would be a memoir. I think it was fiction I was looking for, but it's okay because it was quite easy to get through. I mean, despite it being a very heartbreaking story, the narrator did a very good job of keeping the mood kind of hopeful and something that, like, I knew that she wanted to kind of portray that life moves on, but it's also okay to stop and take your moment before you decide that it's moving on. So this is a Korean American author who has lived in America her entire life, but her mom is from Korea and she's visited Korea at different points in her life, and she basically describes her journey from like her childhood and growing up as a Korean American in America, her identity, and all of the things that you can possibly think of when it comes to being a person of minority at that point in time. Like nowadays people are very woke, but back then she kind of felt very lost, and in terms of like, where am I, why do I look different from everyone, a lot of those things that I feel like many people go through when they do have to live away from their own communities in a different country. And she's also mixed, so it's not like a Korean person in America. She has like two parts of her identity. But this book is mainly about her connection to Korea because her mom, she finds out that she has cancer, and this is her perspective and her experience of going through all of this with her mother, someone who has this way of showing love that is so unique and so different to what she's used to. So a lot of it that she describes, a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, is portrayed in the form of Korean food and the Korean cuisine. And a lot of the times that her mom would show love by like these little additions to her meal, or the way she would prepare it, the different things, and it was just described so wonderfully. The smells and the association, and also her memories of her mother around different food events, like what she used to order, what she used to always like prefer on different occasions, and like her specific food habits. And those are the memories that I guess came to her first when she experienced this with her mom, but also the moments where she missed her mom the most, because it was those little food events that were like, oh my god, she used to do it like that, or oh my god, I never learned to make this from her. Or even when she was caring for her mom at the time when she was going through cancer, the things that she wished she could prepare for her in order to make her feel more at home. And also she kind of experienced, and after her mom passes away, she spends some time with her aunt in Korea who doesn't speak a lot of English and she doesn't speak a lot of Korean, so they're like trying to communicate, and a lot of the communication does happen over sharing food. And I think me growing up in Assam, growing up in India, food is such a huge part of our community and our culture, and the way we show love, the way we show affection. It's like when you share your food, it's an act of kindness, but also just some people don't know how to show you that they like you, but you're both eating from the same plate. Like England was a huge culture shock for a lot of things, but mainly the main thing is that people order food for themselves and they eat that. They don't really share in a restaurant. It's not like, oh, let's order 2-3 things and we'll all eat like from everything, right? That's not a thing people do. People order for themselves, and that is like so weird to me. Till today, by the way, I go to restaurants no matter what cuisine it is, and I'll order like 2 or 3 things with someone and we like share everything, because that's how it's meant to be done. Share your damn food, okay? I just don't understand this individualistic mindset about like food, because what's the joy in eating food if only you are experiencing it? The whole point is to share and go Anyways, so I could definitely understand what she meant. I could relate to it at many levels. I thought it was a very beautifully written book. having said that, I do think it's a narration that made it nice to go through. I don't know if I would have found it, I cannot say this without sounding like an absolute asshole, but like interesting, because the way it was written, at parts I was really gripped, but I feel like maybe there could have been more internal monologues for different parts. Also, like, it kept going to and fro a couple of things. Obviously, there is no need for embellishments when it is a memoir. It's a memoir. If you connect with it, you connect. If you don't, you don't. There is no why am I even commenting on how this could be better? But it's just, I'm here to review the book, so I'm telling you in my honest opinion. It was a beautifully written story about, you know, a daughter and her experience of going through cancer with her mom. Could the writing have been more intriguing? Maybe, perhaps, yes, but was that the point? Probably not. I do think that the way she shared the story was very authentic. It was very relatable in the sense that she didn't try to kind of glamorize anything or underplay anything. She kind of said it as it is. And it also kept becoming obvious that the way she grew up, or the circumstances, or the way she was cared for, has a lot to do with how she felt at different stages of her life. And she shared that part really beautifully, on like how guilty you feel about certain things, how you react to certain things, how you feel about certain things. And at no point did I feel kind of, oh, maybe I'm not a good person because I don't feel like that. I think she did a good way of doing, like, balancing it out with like the amount of feelings and the amount of times that she didn't feel actually all that much about certain thing. I think there was also a lot of parts about her dad that was very beautifully written, very raw and very sad. I think it was actually sadder when she talked about her dad as opposed to her mom, because there was something that I feel like she was grieving him while he was still alive, whereas her mom, she couldn't believe she was gone. So I think that is a very difficult position to be in, and still she did such a wonderful job in portraying that on paper and actually sharing it with the world, which I think takes such a tremendous amount of kind of courage, and also to a certain level to just say, this is how it is. And as much as people find it difficult to share that raw part of themselves, sometimes you should, because talking about it helps other people know that you're not alone in whatever you're going through. So it's really nice. I really personally did enjoy it. By the way, how beautiful is she? Like, I'm gonna put up, I can't. Gorgeous. Gorgeous girl. I honestly, like, she looks so cute, but at the same time she has such artistic photos. I was reading this blog article on her, and I saw this one shoot she did, which I absolutely fell in love with. She was like in her bedroom, in her study or something, in front of a guitar. Oh, here, this one. Loved it. I just felt like that was such an iconic photo. If you don't know who Michelle Zauner is, which I didn't, she's in an indie rock band called Japanese Breakfast, headed by Korean-American musician, director, and author Michelle Zauner. The band released its first studio album, Psychopomp, on Yellow K Records, followed by Soft Sounds from Another Planet and Jubilee. I actually haven't heard anything by her. I think after this video I'm gonna play some of her music while I like clean up and do my bits. But Japanese Breakfast, that's what it's called, which is interesting because she is actually Korean. I'll be curious to know what the story behind the name is as well. And overall, the book also, she went into a little bit about her relationship with her husband Peter, how they got to be married like just before her mom passed away. A lot of about like Korean beauty standards, standards imposed onto her by her mother and during the time when she was growing up. Also about like how culturally sometimes some things don't make sense to you, but why they were so important to her mother, or why she struggled to even understand why those things were important to her mother. So there's so many little bits and pieces there that, as someone who grew up in Asia and then now is living in a Western country, it's like, it rings so true that, you know, sometimes you carry those things with you, but they're not necessarily the right thing. At the same time, you come here and people impose their standards onto you, and it's like, which one's right? Like, you're never perfect and you're never right, because it's all just so subjective. So anyways, wrapping it up together, putting it all together, I think it's a beautifully written book. I just didn't feel the connection there, simply because I feel like either it was too long with a lot of going away from the main story. I read memoirs and usually I'm never like, oh my god, apart from like a couple, which like I think Educated was one that like just moved me a lot, because there's a lot of like cult stuff in there, and This one, I feel like I wasn't like, my mind wasn't blown away, but there was nothing wrong with it. It was just a beautiful memoir. And I think that's the thing with reading about someone's life. Like, how can you criticize that someone's life was not like shocking or embellished enough for your own satisfaction or your own consumption? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. So I think it's difficult to let people know like whether or not you recommend someone's life story to read, but I think it all depends on your perception of like, what do you like, read the premise, read like a little bit about what the book is about. If that rings true to you and if you feel like this is something you could relate to, go for it. But in general, I feel like even Becoming by Michelle Obama, so many people recommend it, but I'm like, I liked it, I'm not crazy about it. But then if I do really feel like a memoir has like gone to depths and like done something inside me, I will recommend it. I felt the same way about reading Patti Smith's Just Kids. Like, why did I not give a fuck? Because apparently a lot of people love it. Like, it's a great story, nothing's wrong with it. I mean, that's her life and she's telling it in a very beautiful way, but some things just don't pack the punch, and some other things do. Not like, some things just don't resonate with you in the same way others do, and that's the reality. And that's the hard part about reviewing memoirs, which I think I'm gonna try and read less of, because I feel like I want to create more of these videos and I want to give you my full honest impressions, but with people's own lives it's a little bit difficult, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, is it just the type of story I want to read? Currently though, I'm reading Daniel Howell's You Will Get Through This Night. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I feel like I need to get at least 50% into the book to even have an opinion. Right now I'm not that happy with where it's going, but at the same time, Daniel Howell, Phil can do no wrong. They're a huge part of my teenage years, so I will read anything they produce. It's also like spending 6 hours listening to Dan narrate. A part of me feels like if he would have done this all on his own, it would have been much better, but I can feel almost, because I'm so familiar with his writing and his speaking, it almost feels like there's another person holding his hand there, and just makes me uncomfortable. Maybe if I wasn't familiar, I would have enjoyed it more. But enough waffle, that's probably the next video you can expect to see on this channel. But until then, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm hitting 2,000 subscribers soon, so hit follow, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!